Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Goon Hill, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Stuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Goon Hill. Here with Mara, a bunch of Zoomers, Bhakti Vinod, a.k.a. the King of Hearts, just got initiated. And, yeah, everything's beautiful. And Kostuba, we are sorry we've been sort of like MIA, but the ecstasy is just like nonstop to the point where like everyone's going to leave tomorrow and I'm going to decompress only here with a few people. How are you doing, Kostuba?
Doing good.
You hear me okay?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we just rushed back from Kusham Sarovar, which is this, if you don't know, it's the Taj Mahal for the devotees of Lord Krishna. It's like this breathtaking architecture, built by a king in memory of a sacred lake. That was where Krishna used to braid the hair of Radha. And yeah, it was quite wonderful. Welcome to the show, everybody. If you're new to this, are we on Facebook yet? We're on live on Facebook. Welcome to the show, Facebook people. If you're listening to for the first time, welcome. This is a study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Kostuba and myself are live in India. Today's Q&A day. It's Saturday, I think. Something about India where I lose track of all days. But again, we were with Satchidananda Swami again this evening, and it was quite magnificent for our closing. Whew. How are you?
You asked me that already.
How are you? Okay, sorry. I just keep talking. I'm really sort of like at my limit here, like psychologically. I think psychologically, physically, psychologically, sleep deprived, and but I can rest soon. So we have some announcements or questions. Want to dive right into questions?
Are we doing a show tomorrow? Are we doing a show tomorrow?
Tomorrow's Sunday. What time would we do it?
We would do it at 5:30.
Yeah, we can do it. We can do it.
We might be able to get Genevieve for tomorrow.
Oh, that'd be great.
Maybe we can talk about that.
All right, great. I think we did the show from the Govardhan Retreat Center last time, so I think it works.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Can I make one more announcement? We also have a Urban Davy meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. via the Bhakti Center. It's an online group. You can go to bhakticenter.org for more information on that.
All right.
Let's dive into questions.
Before we dive into questions, Kostuba, you like my new shirt? It's a sleeveless Bundy. Buckle Bundies? Sleeveless?
Okay.
You like it? It's a look. I'm going to start these up.
It's fine.
Okay. I'm not fine. I don't want it to be fine. I want it to be like, cool. Chuck.
Well, you were talking about how you were going to simplify everything the other day.
Simplify. No sleeves, buddy.
All right.
Keep it. How much more simple can it get than no sleeves?
Well, the Bundy thing's
that
little
sticking your hand through anymore. Getting your shirt inside out. Okay.
Let's get Gabby. It's her birthday.
Oh, Gabby, come on down. It's birthday, Gabby. Now, everybody knows that when you come, you grab the mic. You got to talk right into the microphone. It's Gabby, and you are from where, Gabby?
I'm originally from California, but I live in Montana.
She cast out of crazy California and moved to what I didn't know was Montana is extremely overpriced. I thought we were like, oh, what do you live like? $40 a week or something like that? And she's like,
No, it's very overpriced, but it's beautiful, so it's worth it.
Great. And your story, how you got into Wisdom of the Sages, just curious?
Joe Rogan podcast, and on a spiritual path, looking for some wisdom, and I was reading a lot of books, but the podcast was amazing when I dipped into it to just hear that every morning. I just moved to Montana actually, and I didn't know anyone. And so I would wake up and go for a walk every morning, listen to the podcast, and it just brought me comfort to hear that. Yeah. So thank you.
Beautiful story. Thank you. Glad She shined bright on this pilgrimage. So what's your question? How can we serve you?
Yeah. So my question is about chronic illness. And, I've been struggling with an autoimmune condition for a few years. And I started trying to fix it materially, change what I eat, and just really trying to fix it. And then in the last year, I quit a job that wasn't my path and have dived deeper into my spiritual practice. But my question is when do you surrender and when do you keep fighting, and where do you find the strength to keep going? And like, I know I'm meant to learn all these lessons, but I'm kind of like, okay, I'm over it. I've learned enough lessons. Like, how many more do I need to learn?
When do I graduate?
Yeah. So just some wisdom about that. I know it's like specific, like when to surrender, not asking medically, but just to talk a little bit about that and how to find the strength.
Beautiful. Kostuba, you want to jump on that first?
You want to jump on it first? I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, the first thing
ready.
that came to my mind was the Serenity Prayer. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. That is huge when you can actually realize, like, this is actually out of my control. I would like it to change. It seems like the whole world would like it to change. The people in my family would like to change. It's just out of my control. And it's important to have like that, know where that needle is. And I think, of course, this is unique, whether it's a war over Gaza or whether it's, your immune system, or whether it's like trying to get your kid to, stop smoking or something like that. These are all, you don't know how much can you control another person or control yourself or control your mind. So God grant me this serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can. Okay, when do I need to step into this? And the wisdom to know the difference. And I guess that's the big question. When is the difference there? And I think this is sort of going to be introspection and prayer with you. I don't think it's something anybody else is going to say, but everyone's got your autoimmune disease in one way or another. We're going through like different forks in the road, and we have to know how much do we have to step into this stuff. So yeah, I would say introspection and prayer. That might sound like a lame answer, but it's a real answer, because God is real, and God does commune with us. And sometimes it's more than a whisper. Sometimes it's a very loud voice of what we should be doing. Kosum?
First of all, very nice to meet you, Gabby. You look like you had a great time.
Yes, it was amazing.
You got that glow right now.
Yeah, I don't know what portal I just stepped through, but it was definitely life-changing.
Okay. Your question to me, boy, it's like one of those kind of things. Something that I sometimes I get some solace from is like when I read Mahabharata and I see a character like Yudhishthira. Have you read Mahabharata? No.
You're in for a great 800 pages. I'm serious. I feel so fortunate for you that now you get to add that to your life.
Yeah. You got the whole thing fresh. Although it never gets stale, actually. So, but there we see a character who's like really the wisest person. I mean, he's just incredibly self-disciplined, incredibly good-natured, incredibly wise, thoughtful person, and yet we find him commonly wondering what's right to do. So that is kind of the nature of this world, and I think Raghunath and I, or as we get older, we just realize, this is just a messy world, this place, and
messy.
And so I'm trying to remember exactly how you asked it, but it's like, when is the right time to keep? Was it like, when is the right time to keep trying to get healthy, and when is it time to kind of accept that this is the way it is? It was kind of like that.
Yeah.
And that's actually it's just not a question I can answer. I wish I had a formula for you, but let me ask you this: do you have your first introduction to Bhakti was the podcast?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and you live out in Montana.
Yeah.
Which is not exactly known as a hotbed for Gaudiya Vaishnavism, as far as I understand.
I don't think so.
Are you in one of our sage groups?
No, not yet.
I think that might be nice for you. But what you really need, I would think, is some friends. The more deeply thoughtful they are about bhakti, the better. And if they're experienced, that's really helpful too. That can kind of just help you regulate. Like when to. We had a show last week, and I think it was entitled "Adjust the World" or "Adjust to the World," right? And we were kind of like, I guess we're kind of championing the idea of adjusting to the world. In one sense, accepting things rather than always trying to change things. But that doesn't mean that we don't go out there and try to make certain things happen. And your body and how you relate to your body is an important thing for Bhakti Yogi. We see the body as, in one sense, it's not ours, but it is. We see it as God's property, as Krishna's property, and we're kind of the caretaker of it, and we use it as an offering. So how much trying to take care of it is going to be fruitful for that offering, or is it going to distract me or what's the word, divert me from offering? That's something that in your heart, Raghunath was saying prayer and introspection. That's where the prayer and introspection comes in, right? Do I keep trying to do this or do I accept it? Do I keep trying to do this or do I accept it? What's best so that I can give my body, my mind, my words, my everything as an offering to God? The more you're ready to accept whatever God wants of you, He may want you to have to suffer some physical ailments in your life for a short time, for a long time, we don't know. But the devotees, they accept it as a blessing, and they just try to figure out what the best thing to do is to serve. These are just thoughts I can share. I wish I had a formula for you, but I think the most important thing is your attitude going into it, and it seems like you have a very nice attitude. So I pray that you'll be healthy, and I pray that whatever you're meant to learn and however you're meant to grow through this, that you'll get that blessing. And you've just gone around Govardhan Hill and bathed in the holy rivers and associated with all the Vaishnavas, and I think you're doing great.
Thank you so much. I really
Sure.
appreciate the wisdom, and I will take the messages from both of you home. I think I already got the message on this trip that prayer is something important for me to dive
yeah.
deeper into.
Yeah.
And also to just approach things from what's the best offering to my body and to Krishna through taking care of my body. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Maybe I could just say one last thing. Is that when Srila Prabhupada, he was really all about surrendering entirely to Krishna, but he would tell people, first priority is take care of your health. Like, sometimes he'd put him in like in a hierarchy, like first priority is take care of your health, then chanting, so he wasn't advising us to neglect our health ever.
Practical.
So be sure you do what is recommended to do to try to care for that body of yours that you're responsible for. Don't neglect that. But again, sometimes we do all we can, and then we just have to accept, where it's at.
Great. Thank you.
Beautiful. I love the idea of joining a sage group too. And
Yeah.
they're out there, and it's that regular company you keep that is what you really need when you're out there isolated in the middle of nowhere. So thank you, Gabby.
And if they started about, I think we're going into week number 5 of like 15 or 14 or 15 weeks. But if you would like to try to squeeze into one, we might be able to help you with that. Just write to us, and we'll try to help you.
All right, Gabby. Thank you. Great girl. Great lady. Girl. Is that inappropriate to call a woman a girl?
No, we
Some
call it
people say that.
surprise.
Some people are like all over my. One girl got all over me for doing that. I'm a woman. I was like, oh, I'm just I call men boys too.
You're my
Maybe
boys.
that's not good either.
Yeah.
Oh, Krishna. Oh,
What's that?
Karina from Scotland.
Oh,
Howdy, Paul, Karina. Come on down. Now, Karina's daughter's a devotee,
I
an
know.
initiated devotee.
I know.
Karina is famous for having the best tattoos in all of the world, maybe, of Krishna.
That's a nice one.
I mean, it's sort of like they've taken tattoos to the next level. When I was growing up, it was all weird skeleton skulls and, spider webs on the elbows. This is like she's got like faces, like a photograph, as if you took a photograph of Krishna and placed it on your skin. It's quite unbelievable. Okay, Karina, before the question, I want to ask you, where and what happened on this pilgrimage that touched you the most? Where and what happened?
Oh gosh, there's been so many.
Yep, one.
Yesterday, the very first temple we went into when we went to Radikund. I don't know the name of the temple, where we just sat and chanted.
Oh, that was nice. With Radha, we went to some really they're not obscure, but they're just tiny little obscure temples at Radikund. That was Radha Raman, and we sat there and sang. And they're just like these charming, almost like homes of people that take care of deities, and where the original deities of Radha Raman were moved to when they were being, I think, hidden. And there's like a Madha Mohan, Radha Gopinath, and Radha Govinda, and we went to Radha Raman. We just walked around Radhakund yesterday and just sat and chanted. Oh, nice.
The thing that happened was, though, I've always had such respect for the deities, but I don't think until yesterday I really understood their power. Because I just glanced behind the altar, I just glanced, and it was as if one of the deities just saw into my soul, to put it honestly, and I burst into tears. And
I was wondering what was going on with you yesterday.
I had this connection with one of the deities, and it was very powerful.
They're part of the 5 potent items of bhakti: being in a holy place, being in the Dham, right, and seeing the deities, the Dham Nam Bhagavatam, devotees, and the deities. So you experienced it. We get a glimpse, and that little taste is what it's like, sort of like, you like it? You want more? Come forward. And then Krishna pulls us forward like that and literally baits us out of the material world. That's what's going on right now. You're getting baited out of the material world.
I know it. Yeah, I can feel it.
Okay, so what's your question, dear?
So my question just arose today when I had my crystal reading that we were all given. It's all about forgiveness.
Crystal readings, Raghunath. What's going on in this?
No, it wasn't Raghunath.
Listen, sometimes you got to meet the mystics who read the crystals.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so the word forgiveness is big in Bhakti. I know that we constantly forgiving ourselves, asking others for forgiveness, etc., etc. It goes on and on. And then today something came up that said, if you don't forgive people in your family who have already passed over, then you're going to be born into a family and have to face the same problems all over again. I was like, what? What? And I just was really looking for a little bit of wisdom from you both, what you think about that, because I've always thought about
the last thing you want to have to go through is all of that again, right?
I really do not want to go through all of that again. And I keep thinking, oh, maybe I'll be born into a more spiritual family next time round. But if I get the same ones all over again, don't tell anyone I said that.
Daughter's doing great though, right?
So it's just, you have to forgive. And now you've got to forgive the deceased as well. I hadn't even thought about that. So yeah, just looking for some advice, wisdom. Thank you.
You want to start, Raghu, or you want me to go?
Forgiveness is like a principle in any spiritual path, because we want to be forgiven, because we have a history. It's not like we're angels falling from the sky. We've got a history, and we're obtuse, and we hurt, and we betray, and we step on toes, and we murder, who knows what we've done in previous lives. And we want to be forgiven. Say, hey, you know what's behind me? Come on, get over it, please. Okay, now you get over it. And so part of getting over it is accept the fallibility of human existence and of humans in general, that they screw up. And you can really trust only in God, and people screw up. And if you can be flexible enough to allow forgiveness in there, you will save yourself carrying a big steel file cabinet of resentments around that hurt you more than anybody. But it's not just that it's a burden to carry resentments around. It is. It plagues you. If you like chanting the holy name, it'll ruin it, right? It's a burden. You seethe in it. It's not just that, but it's a type of, I think I mentioned this yesterday, it's a type of atheism, which makes you feel like there is no God and things happen to me randomly, and these people have hurt me and betrayed me, and it's not fair. We have to understand that the world doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. And that's a very important principle. There are things that are happening for us, and we have to get our head around it. There is no such thing as forgive the unforgivable. We have to forgive. We're asked to rise. And if you don't, you will be caught in this knot forever. That knot will never come out of your shoe. And it's horrible, but you can't end with, I can't forgive the unforgivable. That is the Himalayan peak that we have to climb sometimes, because the unforgivable is also in you. It's also in you. And maybe you have to be desperate enough to do it, to do something unforgivable. So when we can flex that forgiveness, I'm not saying it's easy either. That's why we can practice it regularly. When someone bothers me, hurts me, steals from me, betrays me, whatever, we can practice. Hey, I forgive completely and I forgive immediately. That's how I work forgiveness, completely and immediately. Don't let it take root. Don't let it grow roots. If it has grown roots, like dead people who hurt you 40 years ago, you're not punishing the dead by hating them, right? They're dead. You're not hurting them. I'll teach those son of bitches. How dare they done that to me? I'll hate them forever. I'll never forgive them. Who's going to win that? Not you.
There's an extra bit I forgot as well. She said, and then you have to, wait a minute, ask them. You have to ask them to forgive you. And the first thing I wanted to say was, I didn't do anything wrong. But yeah, that's even harder.
Maybe in your particular case, there are times where we were children, or we were, in a vulnerable situation. So sometimes, but oftentimes when we analyze what happened to us, you hurt me and that wasn't fair, and you were a drunk and you were an alcoholic and you beat me and stuff like this. When there's that whole thing going, and I tell my story of woe to a friend, then I tell the story of woe to another friend, and you had 99% responsibility in making that marriage, break apart, or that relationship break apart, and I had 1% in there. Okay, and I'm going to tell my story of woe. The problem is, it's not the absolute truth. It's truth, but it's not the whole truth. And the more I tell the story to someone, that story becomes solidified in stone. And what happens is I don't learn anything from it. I don't learn any lessons, because people will, if I stop telling that story, I'll stop getting people to say, oh, poor you. Oh my God, that happened to you. Come here. And when we can flip it and say, you know what did I have to do with this? Was it 1%? Let's objectively look at it. And oftentimes, not all the time, oftentimes it's a much bigger piece of the pie of my responsibility. But the more I tell my story of woe, we cheat ourselves of growing in our next relationship, or growing. We smuggle our bad habits, bad communication skills, bad regulation of our senses into our next relationship, or into our next situation. So this stuff comes up, whether a mystic told this to you or not. It seems like it has some validity, but forgiveness is a universal truth. It's part of the ladder of climbing to our spiritual self and shedding our caterpillar-like bodies.
Thank you. That's very wise. Thank you.
Special K, you want to go there, or you want to just go back and forth and you get the next one? I get that.
Yeah, as you like.
Do you want to do words of wisdom?
Well,
sir?
Just briefly, yeah. Ultimately, my faith is in these texts, in those that understand them and live by them, more than a mystic or something like that. But there you'll find the same advice, that's where we need to learn all that we need to know about forgiveness. That if we can't forgive something, then we haven't quite learned the lessons that we're meant to learn in this life. Because if we want to entirely embrace Krishna, we kind of have to entirely let go of holding on to anything else, including the resentments that we feel towards other people. And so therefore, by forgiving, you just become free. So, whether, if you don't, how exactly that affects, what you experience in your future karma and all that, I'm not saying that statement doesn't kind of make sense in a certain way, because in a general way, I would say, yeah, if we don't learn the lesson one time around, then we have to learn it the next time around. But letting go is a sign that we've learned the lesson, that this is insignificant from the perspective of eternality. This is very insignificant. And I want that vision of eternality, because that's where Krishna exists. If I don't have that vision of eternality, I'm not seeing Krishna. I need that. And so the more that we are conscious of Krishna, the more that we love Krishna, it becomes very easy to forgive. And the less that we're conscious, it becomes hard, and the resentment is there, and we hold on to these things. We got to learn these lessons, myself as much as anyone. But yeah, that's how I think of it.
Okay, we got some lessons for you.
All right.
Thank you, Karina.
Wonderful to see you.
Great to see you, Karina.
In the Govardhan. Are you in Govardhan? That's where you are now, right? Govardhan?
We're at Govardhan, yeah.
Yeah, nice.
It's great.
What is this? It looks like a fancy building that you're in Govardhan. I've never seen
Very,
this kind
very
of stuff out there
fancy.
before. Yeah.
It's not that fancy.
Well,
It's almost like
fancier than
it is.
got a little
pretty
frosted
fancy
glass
compared,
over
like
there. Frosted glass
instead
door.
of like the cement rooms we used to stay in.
Yeah.
But this one is almost like it's built like a movie set. It's like, oh, look at this place, and the wall falls down. It's got that type of like cruddiness to it. Okay. Who's next here, Miss Mara? Rachel. Rachel's been a blessing on this trip. Come on down, Rachel. Hi, Bo. Rachel is from Long Island.
Long Island.
Oh, Northern Virginia. Okay.
Okay. It's very
Up
different.
close. Okay. Rachel, meet the pilgrim. What was the place and what happened on your pilgrimage that stands out for you the most?
It was actually today on Goon Hill on our parikram. This is my first Bhakti experience. So
Okay. Wait a second. How did you get into Bhakti again? Refresh my memory. You told me.
So my cousin lives in Himachal Pradesh. She's up in Manali. She's the one from Long Island. And she's been on the path of Bhakti-yoga now for 30 years.
By the way, you don't sound like someone from south of the Mason-Dixon line. You gotta...
my mom's from Quincy and my dad's from Brooklyn, so I had to neutralize it.
Okay, I was saying you sound like you're closer to Long Island than you are to Virginia.
I could throw it down there, but I won't.
Okay.
So I just came on this journey as part of my spiritual experiences and awakening and all of it.
Did you know of Wisdom of the Sages?
Yes. So, but new to Wisdom of the Sages this year. So yeah, I mean, it's just it's all been very new for me, and yeah. So my experience today was on our walk around Govardhan Hill. I felt the most connected with source, and the most open in my throat and in my heart. It was very energetic, and I felt like each step, even though I was wearing slippers, sandals, and not barefoot, was bringing me closer to something. And so I'm contextualizing this for my question. And my question is, can you help me understand, given the 4 paths to enlightenment, what is the connection between Bhakti and, is it Jnana?
Yan.
Yan.
Yan. Think G.
They say in Long Island, Gan.
Yan.
Gan Yoga. So
There you go.
I try to, get out of my head, but that's where I live most of the time. And I intellectualize things over and over. And I'm just trying to understand, can you take all 4 paths? Is it one path? Is one better than the other? Are there steps to it? Is Bhakti the best? It's just.
Great question. Kastuba specialty.
I don't know if I specialty, but I can try.
Yeah, get it.
So, you're speaking about 4 paths of yoga, which are commonly, when people speak of them, they speak of Ashtanga yoga, Jnana yoga, Karma yoga, and Bhakti yoga. So the idea is all 4 of these paths are called yoga. They all share something in common, therefore they're all called yoga. And the reason for that is they are all different practices that are, their purpose is that we uncover our true nature that's underneath all our conditioning, underneath our body, underneath the conditioning, and particularly in the mind. There's our self, and that in our self underneath has this eternal Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. That's who we are underneath. So yoga, the idea with yoga is that our mind is interfering with us experiencing that. There's all kind of programming in the mind, all kind of impressions in the mind, all kind of thoughts about who I am and what I need to be happy that are interfering with us experiencing who we really are. And there are 4 different paths to uncover that. What's the difference between each path? Each one has a different strategy for how to deal with the mind, right? And so in Jnana Yoga, the idea is that one can analyze all of the desires in their mind and then break them. Like kind of like it's kind of a path that's generally, when you hear about it in a very traditional sense, it's about, it's kind of a little stark, very stoic, a little cold, like turn your back on the world, walk away from it. Especially the way it was taught traditionally is you walk away from the world, at least eventually, at some point in your life, to achieve the goal of it, you renounce the world, because you're analyzing it's all illusion, right? Jnana really has to do with distinguishing between what's truth and what's illusion, analyzing the illusion, no matter how sentimentally sweet it might be. With your analysis, you crack it, right? That means my family relationships, all my social roles that I play, I look at them, I analyze them, I say they're illusion. The love that I have for my children, illusion, right? I've had children in every one of my lives for I don't know how many births and deaths. I've had children as a human. I've had children as a cockroach.
Ostrich too, probably.
And ostrich is likely, very likely, as an ostrich, sitting on that egg. We've all been there.
Egg with your big feathery butt.
So we don't. You know, a lot of you know, and you can read books by Shankara and his followers that they speak really starkly about this kind of thing, and the idea is that through this kind of, I don't know if I want to say cold-hearted, but let's just say, what's the word I'm looking for? Like just cold, stark analysis. I can analyze my attachments and I could dismantle them. And it's commonly done, that practice is commonly combined with some austerity, you know, some renounced austere lifestyle, because that's a way of denying the mind and denying all of the programming in the mind as well. It's kind of conducive for it. So when Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, when it speaks of Gan Yoga, it's a little different than what most people, what's the more common presentation is like that comes out of the yoga world now. In the way Krishna presents it is that you do exactly what I just said for the purpose of breaking all your material desires so that you can then give yourself entirely to Krishna. Right? But commonly when we hear from Jnana yogis, they're coming influenced by Shankaracharya, who goes back many centuries in India. And what he taught of Jnana Yoga was, you asked about it in relation to bhakti. So let me connect these two now. If the strategy in Jnana Yoga is to analyze one's desires and break them and become free of them, in Bhakti-yoga, the idea is to harmonize the mind through doing the kind of things you've been doing on this trip, chanting God's names, chanting Krishna's names together. Through visiting the holy places.
All the time. This woman's chanting all the time. She's got an incredibly positive attitude, sings in kirtan, doesn't even know.
A Jnana yogi might also do that, but there's a difference, and I'll get to that in a second. And reading Bhagavatam, hearing the story. You know, tonight is Rasa Purnima. You know, so like hearing about Krishna and his dance with the gopis and their devotion that they hold in their hearts for him and the love that he holds in his heart for them. These are ways of developing love in the heart. So rather than trying to crack all my desires, I'm trying to redirect my desires to God, that I want nothing but to serve and love God. So two different paths like that. Generally, the Jnana yogis will say that bhakti, that's a nice thing. It'll help you take some steps forward in your spiritual life. But when you want to get to the highest truth, then you need to realize that all of these forms, even the forms of the God that you love, is all illusion. And knowledge is the highest principle when you see everything as illusion and you just merge into the oneness. That's the common teaching of Shankar, and what most people who identify as Jnana yogis, this is what they teach. Whereas we say it's actually the exact opposite. That Jnana can be a good thing because when you kind of free yourself of all your material desires, then as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bahunam Janmana Ante, at the end of many births and deaths, Jnanavan, one who's finally attained Jnana, Mam Prapajante, they surrender unto me. So we say that Jnana can be conducive for developing pure love for God. So like essentially the idea is, what is your conception of God? Commonly, the people that call themselves Jnana yogis think that they are God. Like, I am made of God's energy. I just need to merge back into it. And any form is illusion. Any conception of individuality is illusion. Whereas the Bhakti yogis believe, no. I'm eternally an individual. God is eternally an individual. We're made of the same energy because I'm made of God's energy. In that sense, I'm part of God, but I always have my own individual will. And it's the freedom of having my own individual will that facilitates us exchanging love eternally. And so that's the Bhakti conception. That helpful?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we want to extinguish, in Bhakti, we don't want to extinguish relationships. We say, friendship is just not real. It's just an attachment. I don't think my spouse is attractive because ultimately, what is their attraction? They're just a big, meat puppet. actually, if you peel back their face 1 centimeter, they'd be like ghastly. I don't want to look. I want relationships in this world. I just want to understand that I don't own this person. I don't control this person. This person can help me on my path to love of God. But at the same time, that jnana can be great for analyzing the romanticism of the material world. What do you think about that, Kastuba?
Yeah,
Analyzing the
in
romanticism.
that sense, it becomes conducive for bhakti. Bhakti's not dependent on it. Our belief is that if you completely give yourself to God with love, then knowledge and detachment, gyan and vairagya, they develop automatically, because when your love is focused on one intensely, you kind of become detached from everything else automatically.
Right.
And so that ultimately that's our process. But that being said, typically the bhakti yogi, the practicing bhakti yogi, in a sense, is a jnani, in that they are doing exactly what Raghunath says, analyzing our material desires. We also try to dismantle them as we're going forward, but we're not just dismantling. Through dismantling, we're trying to redirect our desires to divine love.
Mm-hmm. Rachel, we're so happy we got to get to know you. We want to stay connected with you. Please come visit us at the farm or any other retreat, but loved having you on this trip.
Thank you so much. I'm fully immersed here in a lot of love and light, and I'm super stoked.
Right. It's such nice when people have great attitudes. It really allows you to actually move forward in the path. You got a bad attitude, you become on lockdown with your bhakti path.
You can't have a bad attitude.
What's that?
You can't have a bad attitude.
You can't have a bad attitude anywhere in the material world or the spiritual world. Do we have time for one more?
I think so.
Mara,
especially since we started a little late.
Catherine A, bring her down.
Catherine
Lost
A.
her material mind a while ago. And yeah, I don't. But yeah, she is. Yes, I thought you were gonna like float away in the Ganga this year. Yeah, Catherine A is. She shaved up. Where'd you get your hair cut today?
Across from that Shiva temple, right outside of Radhakund.
Then she bathed in Radhakund.
And then I bathed after. It's beautiful.
Wow.
Yes, Catherine A is
Shiva
great.
temple.
Kundaleshwar. It's one of my favorites. Okay. Catherine A is one of our dedicated staunch Savites at Super Soul Farm.
That's
I'm
right.
happy to have her here.
And a cold plunge queen.
She's the cold plunge queen.
As well
yes,
as
she is.
Handstand queen.
And the handstand queen. What's your question, dear? How can we serve you?
My humble obeisances, Hare Krishna, everyone. I'm super blessed to be here. And yeah, I've been up since very early in the morning. So yeah, I did. We did the Dandavats Prikram.
What? No, you did the walking Prikram. Okay. What was your moment on the pilgrimage, and what was your moment? Place.
Today was pretty auspicious. We took a wrong turn, but it ended up being the right turn because we bumped into the other half of the group right at your Govardhan path, and it was just auspicious timing. And then we all got to be together and do Krishna Katha and do the Parikram around Govardhan, and it was just beautiful. So
magic.
The Ganga, of course. Yeah, the Ganga and Radhakund is just so merciful. So I'm very blessed. And so my question is how do you dream about Krishna? I don't know if there's any writings about it, but if you try to think about it all day long in your conscious, is there a way to channel it to your subconscious? And are there any practices to do that?
Have you ever dreamt of Krishna?
Not as much as I want to. Not super clearly, not like the blue form.
What form did he have? What color was he?
Well, it's kind of through people more so than the actual Krishna form. Gotcha. But I just want to how do you constantly bathe in Krishna in all the ways 24/7 in
That's a great
being
question.
Awake and asleep?
That's a pretty good question.
Raghunath, have you ever dreamt of Krishna?
I dreamt of Vishnu. When I was a new devotee, I dreamt of Vishnu. And I approached Vishnu because I was a vegetarian, but I ate eggs. And I asked Vishnu, I was like, why don't we eat eggs? And he said, I go, it's just coming from a chicken
Was
anyway.
it
Why can't I?
intimidating that he was holding this disc at the time?
No, he was very loving. He had a very beautiful
Okay.
face. I said, why can't we eat eggs? What's the big deal? It's just coming out of the chicken anyway. And you know what his answer was? It was a great answer. He said,
Please don't.
he leaned in. He leaned in with his forearms and looked at me in the eye and said, everything that you eat, you offer to me. And he said, and an egg is an egg. And I thought, an egg is an egg. Yeah, why would I? Oh my, that makes so much sense. And I woke up and I stopped eating eggs. Isn't that an interesting story? That's the only time That's the only time I dreamt. I have dreams of gurus and Prabhupada, many.
Okay.
Matter of
Well,
fact.
let me share this little tidbit with you.
You got a tid?
A tidbit.
You got a bit of a tid?
It's a tidbit. But my guru told me once, and like he was kind of in that position where like thousands of people were always wanting to talk to him and sharing what they're going through or sharing what they just dreamt, And he said that what he found was that new devotees, they dream of Krishna. And that more experienced devotees don't dream of Krishna, they dream of Prabhupada. At least that's what they come to him with. I've never dreamt of Krishna. I have dreamt of Prabhupada on a couple occasions. Very vivid, powerful.
Would that make me more advanced than you if I dreamt of Vishnu and you didn't dream of anything?
Well, according to that, it would just make you newer than me.
That was when I was new.
Now you see? Yeah, there you go. But I would say this, dear Catherine A. Handstand in Cold Plunge Queen. Ultimately, Krishna reveals himself to the devotee in any way that he wants. It's a wonderful ambition to be able to think of Krishna 24 hours a day and to dream of him. And the more that you desire it, the closer you are to it happening, I believe. But that being said, the advice that we receive from our acharyas, our great teachers, is to not try to see Krishna, but to try to serve in such a way that Krishna will be happy to see us. So I don't know how to dream of Krishna. If I knew, I would do it. So all I really know is try to serve
in such a way. Serve in such a way that Krishna is looking for us.
He's looking
like
out for you.
Searching us out. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. And sooner or later, he's going to pop up in your dream.
Or right in front of you.
He's going to blow you away. It would be nice. You do sometimes hear prayers by devotees like songs, right? Like that I may never forget you even in dreams, things like that. So that is really our that is our ambition, that we can be in a 24-hour state of awareness of Krishna. So let us keep practicing, and by Krishna's grace, he can grant that at any time. When we want that more than anything, really when we want to please him more than anything, he's going to show up in our dreams. He's going to show up and he's going to shake your hand and say thank you.
Give you a hug.
Service. Thank you for all that you did there at Super Soul. I'll never forget that.
Thank you.
And he likes the way you dance. I'm convinced of that, because I think you dance like a cowherd boy. That's my opinion.
Cowherd boy.
Yeah. Have you noticed that, Raghunath?
I just noticed a naughty cowherd boy in my courtyard. Yes. See, I'm assuming my motherly gopi role now.
Yes, you're a mother. You're an elderly gopi in the spiritual world. Catherine is a cowherd boy.
Thanks everybody for joining us on Q&A day and our last day of pilgrimage. That doesn't mean we're going anywhere. Me and Mara, Bhakti-yoga is going to be here. Jiu-jitsu Nath is flying high, this guy. gonna be for a couple days. Catherine A is gonna stay with us too for a few more
Catherine,
days.
that wasn't her cowherd boy dance. It's more like jumping around.
Oh, she does a little horsey gallop for sure.
That's